gentlemen, we want to start. I know a lot of you have an awful lot to say, and uncharacteristically, I don't. So let's get going because we have a lot of important people here that we want to honor, and we want to give time to our Citizen of the Year for his acceptance speech. So, if we could hold our conversation down to a slight roar. Can you hear me in the back row? People in the front yelling. That's a great help. Thank you. We're going to start. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my name. By the way, my name is Paul Green, your congenial host, and a man with incredible charisma as witness to control I have over this group. We are starting off tonight with a special guest who's not on the program, and it's pretty tough to keep her off. The one, the only board member of the City Club of Chicago, who will give an extremely short speech. Our friend, our colleague, our pal, Miss Kathy Posner. Kathy.
Thank you. Since 1903, the City Club of Chicago has been the stage for momentous announcements, historic debates, and enlightened analysis as Illinois' premier public affairs forum. City Club members, the most prominent leaders and opinion makers in the Chicago business, government, media, education, and civic affairs have shaped our city's history and played key roles in its seminal events, the landmark elections, and the dramatic changes in public policy. It is because of the generosity of the members of City Club that we were able to establish a new program this year called the City Club of Chicago Grants. I am proud to announce the first recipients of the grants. The Chicago Commission on Human Relations Essay Contest for Women's History Month. City Club funded the essay prizes, in which $1,000 was awarded to public high school students whose essays best embodied the Women's History Month national theme, Women Builders of Community and Dreams. A $10,000 grant was provided to the Port Ministries, which provides service to the poor, homeless, families, and children of our society to help them meet basic human needs such as food, clothing, shelter, and other vital support needs. The Teresa House, the Port Free Clinic, and the Mantle are just a few of their programs. And finally, a $10,000 grant will be awarded to the Chicago Legal Clinic in honor of the clinic's 25th anniversary and to help provide funding for the clinic's immigration division. The mission of the Chicago Legal Clinic is to identify legal needs and provide community-based quality legal services and education to the underserved and disadvantaged in the Chicago area, thereby promoting justice through greater access to the legal system. In 2005, more than 12,000 clients were served. The Board of Governors of City Club thanks you for helping us make these grants possible. And on a side personal note, I promised Bill Gaynor of AT&T that I would thank him for helping me get a repairman very quickly when I needed one. And I told him I'd thank him from the stage. He's in Ireland, but all the AT&T people can tell him. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna start the awards, and I'm just gonna make one quick comment beforehand, and you should be thrilled because I've disregarded all the other quick comments. For those of you who are interested in politics, Mr. Kelly, I will suggest to you that you put October 6th on your calendar. We're going to have a big special announcement in a couple of days, but we are going to have the conference, the meeting, the symposium, and it's going to be local, state, and national in scope. More details to follow, and Kathy from Maggiano's, be ready. Okay, our first award tonight, the President's Award for Distinguished Service, goes to Dr. Stuart Goldman. All of you have a program, and I'm not going to read exactly word for word, but Mr. Goldman obviously is an individual who was involved at Children's Memorial Hospital in an area that I'm all familiar with. He is a leading doctor around the country. In fact, he's so leading that he is now at a major conference on the West Coast. So accepting the award for Dr. Goldman is Dr. Tom Green, no relation, nevertheless. Let's give him a big round of applause.
Anyone.
Name on it.
Okay. Thank you very much. I did talk to Stu, who is at a conference in San Diego tonight. He was thrilled to receive this award. I want to assure you that it's my privilege to work at Children's Memorial and to work with Stu Goldman. Stu is a wonderful human being, a fabulous doctor, and brings great things to the children of the city of Chicago. So on behalf of Stu and Children's Memorial, our great thanks. Thank you.
The next award is the John A. McDermott Award for Distinguished Social Leadership. Some of you may not remember John McDermott. He had many honors in his life, many great things he did. The most probably difficult was to keep Tom Roser and Paul Green from killing each other at City Club meetings. Nevertheless, he did it with fairness and with that sense of compassion. Tonight, we give the John A. McDermott Award for Distinguished Social Leadership to Miss Melanie Spann Cooper. Melanie. Melanie, before you give your little talk, she has many important duties and many important responsibilities. But is it true that you're Cliff Kelly's boss? Board member Cliff Kelly works for Melanie, and she keeps him in line. Give her another big round of applause, please.
Thank you. Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. I stand here and I'm receiving an award for social leadership. Just when you all thought that Reverend Jesse Jackson was the only black leader in Chicago. No, thank you. Thank you, Cliff, for being here with me tonight, all of my friends at the table. It is something that you don't take lightly. I appreciate that. I don't think that you ordain yourself a leader. I think that you are put here to serve and that the community will lift you up, and I guess that's what has happened. And I want to thank you and Jay and everybody at the City Club of Chicago. Continued success to you, and thank you for acknowledging me.
That line of hers will, of course, go into the book of great lines in City Club history. Very good. The next award is in honor of a really good friend of all of ours, a dear personal friend of myself, the late Steve Neal, who probably has, now that he's gone, we know how much he meant to this community, because no one's writing the kind of stuff that he wrote. And if you really want to see his legacy besides the award we give every year for journalism, go down to the Abraham Lincoln Museum, especially the Abraham Lincoln Library, and see something that Steve Neal really put on the right track. And that is his legacy for the people of Illinois forever. Now, tonight's winner of the Steve Neal Award is someone who I've known for a long time, including the famous 1984 Republican Convention in Dallas, which we need not talk about. Television, electronic media, print media. You could read her biography in our program. What's not there, she also has added a very important title, a very distinguished title, election judge. And if you worked the March 21st primary in this city and in this state, you know you earned a lot of stripes for that. By the way, some votes are still coming in, so don't be, unfortunately, they're coming in via South America. Cheap shot, I know. Okay. It is my pleasure and honor to give this award to someone who I admire for a long time, our friend and everybody's best buddy, Carol Marine. Carol?
Thank you very, very much for this. I feel like an imposter here for a couple of reasons. One, because this award is named after Steve Neal, whom I knew for many years. and who was really a great counselor over the years because he kept saying, when we would talk about stories that we'd reported, you know, you ought to write a book, you ought to write a book. And Steve, of course, wrote many books, and I never understood how he could do that in his columns and all the work that he did. So I occupy his piece of real estate in the Chicago Sun-Times, but nobody ever fills the place that he held, and certainly no one has the encyclopedic sense of history and politics that he had. In addition, last year's winner was Mark Brown of the Chicago Sun-Times, who, to me, is just the best columnist, not only in the city of Chicago, but one of the best columnists in America. And so I am doubly honored by the fact that this is a Steve Neal Award, that the person who held it before me is Mark Brown, and I am honored that I'm able to accept it in the name of the Chicago Sun-Times because it's a thrill, simply a thrill to belong to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol. Now we come to the President's Award, and because this is such a high honor, they won't allow me to present it. Instead, we have this man from Morecambe, who, that's in the UK for those of you other than Helen and Andrew here who probably have been to Morecambe. They have a wonderful football team. I think it's in Division 11. Little inside English football joke. He's back in Chicago to present this award. He's back in Chicago for a lot of reasons. Let me introduce to you, also from the Chicago Sun-Times, boy, I bet Colonel McCormick is moldering in his grave tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Cook.
Hey, listen, I enjoyed my dinner tonight in this fabulous room in this great hotel, and I don't know for sure, but I think it was pâté de foie gras, and it was delicious. The good news for you is that I timed my speech at 3 minutes, my introduction at 3 minutes, and Green told me to cut it to 2, so I have done exactly that. Ladies and gentlemen and friends, my boss, John Cruikshank, who you're going to meet in a minute, is a newspaper man through to his very bone marrow. He put in years and years of newspaper apprenticeship at Canada's national newspaper, the Globe and Mail, in Toronto, based in Toronto, and his formative years were up in Canada, that great socialist paradise in the great white north, where the driving, I have to tell you, the driving is far more civilized than in Chicago, and the worst that will happen to you if you cut someone off, well, the worst that will happen to you is they will flip you the mitten. Now, there's a cruel fate in our business that usually makes certain, very certain, that good newspapermen are actually kept from running newspapers. But there are rare, very rare exceptions. And in what in our trade is called technically a bloody miracle, John Cruikshank found himself in charge of the Chicago Sun-Times. And this was mainly because the guys he was working for are now on their way to jail. In many ways, it was like that, thank you, I need that. In many ways, it was like that classic New Yorker cartoon where the captain of the sinking ship, 1 foot over the rail, he turns to his first officer as the waves sweep over the deck, and he says, "Congratulations, Cruikshank, you're the captain now." You see, John arrived in the publisher's office at our newspaper with a newspaper in trouble, big trouble. The previous captain had faked the circulation numbers, and there was a subsequent advertising fiasco. There was a bizarre ownership riddle. There was a decimated and demoralized staff. And people have asked me what it was like at the Chicago Sun-Times during that circulation scandal of last year. You know, that was a little problem where we caused by shoving tens of thousands of newspapers every night into hollow trees and down sewers, and we told the advertisers that we'd sold the paper to readers. This ended up costing the newspaper tens of millions of dollars in advertising refunds, which John gave back, and refunds to advertisers are a terrible thing to even think about, but he did it. And I asked John at the time, I said, and John, tries to be optimistic. I said, John, if you have one word, and this was a year and a half ago, I said, John, if you have one word to describe our newspaper's future facing this circulation disaster, what word would you use? And John thought for a moment, and he said, good. And then I asked him, well, John, what if you had two words? And he said, not good. But happily, the former was true. Many men would blanch at the task that John was given, but John is a Canadian and is thus undaunted by the impossible journey. His approach as a new publisher of the Sun-Times was in very sharp contrast with the previous stewards. He dealt with the past deceptions with a blazing honesty, going so far as to reveal our newspaper's unpublicized problems to the press himself. He righted the past wrongs with advertisers very quickly. He treated his staff with his characteristic humanity, and he even showed an interest in their lives, only some of which was faked. And John was rewarded with renewed and redoubled efforts from everyone. Now, there's no need for me to sing John Cruikshank's praises. The results show up in your Sun-Times every morning, and it must be said with a little help from his editor-in-chief, John Barron, but there it is on your doorstep, on your kitchen table every morning. And in a nation where too many cities have become one newspaper towns, where readers are left at the mercy of fat, complacent, and achingly dull newspapers, the Sun-Times has had a rebirth. The Sun-Times has survived its scandals. It survived to challenge the daily dull certainties of that other Chicago newspaper, and it survived to dash the cup of monopoly from that beast's eager lips, and to give more than 1 million Chicagoans every day a place to go, a haven of refuge and comfort, of torment and delight, of news and entertainment, the daily drama that is Chicago and that is the Chicago Sun-Times. Now, John will be the first to say, and you'll hear this in a few seconds, I'm sure, John will be the first to say that he has a great team surrounding him, and he's right, and that's helped him do that. But it's John Cruikshank that has changed the course of the paper, set the new course for the newspaper, and the City Club Award tonight is a splendid, splendid acknowledgement of his integrity, of his work at the newspaper, and his work at the city for the past 18 months. So please join me in congratulating John Cruikshank for his award.
It's an eagle, sir. You may have this award. I hope your speech is also 3 minutes.
Thank you so much. Paul, come back. Keep it. I will keep it. I do want to speak about my team, but I want to speak about the City Club first. Great cities may be shaped by extraordinary individuals, but they're sustained and they endure. They remain great because of great institutions. And the City Club of Chicago is one of those institutions that keeps this city great. By providing a forum for the exchange of ideas and a regular meeting place for policymakers, it plays an indispensable, sustaining role in a complex political environment. I'm honored to be cited here tonight along with Arne Duncan, the driven, idealistic leader of this city's most critical institution for the sustenance of our future. I accept this award in the name of the great editors and reporters with whom it's been my privilege to work. Michael Cook, who I believe you've just met, the Sun-Times News Group's Vice President of Editorial, has been a newsroom partner of mine now for many years, and in a collaboration that's been creative, impassioned, and always fun. John Barron, the inventive and engaged editor-in-chief of the Chicago Sun-Times, has led our flagship papers to new heights of excellence, relevance, and social responsibility. And Fred Liebold of the Sun-Times News Group, guru of new media, who's reinventing how we imagine the news. The reporters and columnists you know them because they insist on having their names in the paper every day. Tim Novak and Steve Warmbier. Cheryl Reed, Mark Brown, Mike Sneed, and tonight's honoree, Carol Marine, among many others who have restored the Sun-Times name for investigative journalism and public service. But finally, let me acknowledge Jay Doherty, the driving force behind this exuberant era in the life of the City Club. He's been a great friend to me, and as he has been to this city. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're about to give the big award out, but before we do that, you know what has to come. For many of you, this is the high point of why you're here. For some of you, you may not know what I'm talking about, but you may not long remember, or for whatever Lincoln said at Gettysburg, the world will long remember or forget what they did here, but they'll never forget what he said here. It is my pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce the president of the City Club, who will spend a few precious seconds making some introductions and doing it with a kind of pizzazz that Ed Sullivan couldn't even in his best days dream about. Ladies and gentlemen, Jay Doherty.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. All right. Thank you, Dr. Green. And again, Dr. Green, I get so much of the credit for all these wonderful programs, but it's really Dr. Paul Green, Roosevelt University. Let's give him a round of applause. Dr. Green. I also want to thank Father David Ryan. So many of us spend our lives in government and politics and private sector, but he's devoted his life to serving humanity. Father David Ryan. Father, thank you so much. And to Kathy Posner, who put together this wonderful partnership with Channel 11 and WTTW, where we sponsor every Monday night, Chicago Tonight, where we co-sponsor, and then with Cable Access Network, CAN TV. Thank you so much, Kathy. Before I introduce our distinguished honoree, I wanted to acknowledge some special friends. We have a remarkable Chicago celebrity with us tonight, who I am delighted to introduce. Over 35 years ago, she teamed up with Eunice Kennedy Shriver, President Kennedy's sister, as a young instructor from the Chicago Park District, who changed the lives of the mentally disabled in our nation and around the world forever, over 175 countries. It's called the Special Olympics. Since then, nothing has ever been the same. As many of you know, this summer she will take a well-deserved place on the bench of our state's highest court as our newest Supreme Court Justice. Ladies and gentlemen, Appellate Court Justice Ann Burke. Justice, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We know the next outstanding City Club member best for his extraordinary grasp of government. He knows government. He is an author, an historian, an outstanding real estate lawyer for all you business folks, foster parent par excellence, an excellent piano player, dean of the City Council, chairman of the Finance Committee, the chairman, Ed Burke. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for being with us tonight. We have all of our City Club events in his ward. He is a Kennedy School of Government scholar, and Mayor Daley calls him, and I quote, a valued partner in making Chicago the best that it can be. The alderman and committeeman of the 42nd Ward, Alderman Bert Nateras. Your Honor, Alderman. For those of us in government and politics, the person I'm about to acknowledge is really second to none for those who have achieved the top in government and the top in public life. He served his 8 years as Chief of Staff to Mayor Richard J. Daley, in the same capacity for Mayor Michael Bolandic, and then he went on to the Board of Trade for 22 years, 18 as president. I'm very proud to have with us tonight Tom Donovan and his wonderful wife, Vita. Tom and Vita, thank you so much. For those of you who it took 25 or 30 minutes or 40 minutes to get up here, if you have any questions why it took so long, we are so honored to have with us the police superintendent and his wife, Phil Klein and Kathy, Kathleen. Superintendent, thank you so much. Thank you. We heard from Michael to mention John Cruikshank, our wonderful honoree, but there's someone who's an incredibly powerful journalist at the Chicago Sun-Times, a wonderful spouse, Jennifer Hunter. Jennifer Hunter, thank you very much. Alderman Burke said it best last year when he introduced our 2005 City Club Citizen of the Year, and I quote, "No one demonstrates the refined elegance of Chicago citizenship more," end of quote, than Jack Hartman. Jack, thank you very much for being with us. Now, I'm going to get in trouble for this one, but I'm going to go say it anyway. 14 years, the intellectual powerhouse of the Thompson administration, Dr. Paula Wolf. Paula, stand up. Thank you very much. Thank you. And sitting next to her, for my money, he's the #1 corporate lawyer in America. Number 1, he wins all his cases. Number 2, he gives the best advice. Number 3, I'm sorry, John, Michael, he keeps his name out of the newspapers. Wayne Whalen. Okay. Executive Vice President and Chief Administrative Officer of a company second to none and always helping the City Club of Chicago, Exelon, Randy Merberg. Randy, thank you very much for being with us tonight. Building Commissioner of the City of Chicago and his wife, Leah, John Knight. John, stand up. Thank you very much. Secretary of the Transportation Department, State of Illinois, and his wife, Ann, Tim Martin. Tim, thank you very much for being with us. And Ann, a special thank you, because she never comes to these wonderful events. Chairman of the Chicago Crime Commission and President, J.R. Davis, and Jim Wagner. J.R. and Jim, thank you very much. Marquette graduate, Director, Central Management Systems, Paul Campbell, and his wife. Paul, thank you very much for being with us. CTA board member, Nick Zagoda. Nick, are you here? Thank you very much for being with us, if you're here, hopefully. They mentioned the Steve Neal Award, and it was really the person I'm about to mention who really came up with this concept and has been so helpful since Steve left us on all fronts. He's been so very, very helpful. Chicago Journalism Hall of Famer, who's here with his beautiful daughter, Jessica, Bernie Judge. Bernie, thank you so much. Bernie and Jessica, thank you. One of the governor's best appointments is Chief of Staff, John Harris and Patty. John, there we go. He gave me my first job when I was going to college. Chairman of Metra, Jeff Ladd, and his wife, Kathy. Jeff, thank you. And thank you for that Marquette degree. Chief Financial Officer, Cook County, Tom Glazer. Tom, thank you for being with us. Commissioner, Department of Consumer Services, Norma Reyes. Thank you for joining us. Chief Financial Officer, City of Chicago, and Monday noon speaker at the City Club For all you city workers, he will tell you what's happening to your pension money. Dana Levinson and his wife Christine. City Treasurer Judy Rice. It has been roughly 5 years since Mayor Daley announced that our honoree this evening was taking over as Chief Executive Officer of the Chicago school system. Our 2006 Citizen of the Year is a lifelong Chicagoan. In 1998, he joined the Chicago school system, leading the Magnet School program, where he achieved some dramatic improvements, and 2 years later, he was named Chief Executive Officer of the Chicago Public Schools. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 2006 City Club of Chicago Citizen of the Year, Arne Duncan. Arne? There you go. It's all yours. Have some fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jay. Let me begin by taking you back about 11 years to when my sister and I were running the Ariel Foundation for John Rogers, my best friend and mentor. We had an I Have a Dream program that we had started a couple years before that, and those students were doing extraordinarily well. The mayor took over the public schools in 1995, and we were naive enough and optimistic enough to apply to create a small public school. And thankfully, Gary Chico and Paul Vallis approved us to do that. And so that year, I was knocking on doors in the Robert Taylor homes, trying to recruit families to come to this school that we were going to open in the North Kenwood, Oakland neighborhood. I don't even think we had a home yet, but we knew we wanted to do it there and ended up going to a Park District site. And one of the mothers I talked to was a mother named Annie Tyler. And we talked about the dreams for the school and what we wanted to do, and she said, I've never forgotten this. She looked me in the eye and said, promise me one thing. Promise me that your school will do a better job for my child than what public education did for me. And in that conversation, both the extraordinary potential and the tragic heartbreak of this work really struck home. This is a mother who didn't have much, but who absolutely wanted the best for her child and was willing to entrust a total stranger with a child's education because she wanted more. This was also a mother who, due to the historic failure of public education, had been trapped in the Robert Taylor homes her entire life. And she looked down from her window to the schools that had failed to educate her. And I think the battle for quality public education is about so much more than education. I really think it's a civil rights issue of our generation. I think it's a battle for social justice. I think the lessons we've learned here in Chicago and nationally tell us that. We look at New Orleans and the Hurricane Katrina. There's lots of talk about levees and FEMA and floods. For me, the real lesson there was a dysfunctional public education system that had trapped people in poverty for generations. And I guarantee you they can rebuild the city of New Orleans, but if they don't do something dramatically better with the public education system, those families will remain trapped in poverty for generations to come. Michael Scott, my extraordinary partner and the board president, speaks eloquently about the probably literally billions of dollars that have poured into North Lawndale since the 1960s. Anti-poverty programs, jobs programs, you name it. And guess what? The people in North Lawndale are still desperately poor. Why? Because the one thing that matters never changed. That's the quality of public education there. And so I think the story of the Chicago Public Schools is a story of battling that inequity and trying to do something dramatically different, trying to overcome decades of neglect, decades of inadequate investment that led the Chicago Public Schools being labeled the worst school system in America about 20 years ago, and trying now to transform it into the best public school system in the country, one the entire city can be proud to support. And it's so wonderful that there's been so much progress and so much momentum. I'm so pleased to be able to report that today test scores are at all-time highs at both the elementary and the high school level. We've cut in half the number of students testing in the bottom quartile. 48%, almost half our students historically in the bottom quartile. It's down to 24%, actually doing better than the rest of the country. Our 8th graders are beating national norms for the first time ever. Attendance rates are at all-time highs. Graduation rates are at all-time highs. Having said that, we know we have a heck of a long way to go, and we're nowhere near where I think we can be and where we will be and where we should be. We face some very real challenges every single day. Over 355,000 of our students live below the poverty line and aren't fortunate enough to go home often to two-parent families and households filled with books. About 56,000 of our students are learning English for the first time, and they have some real challenges that we need to support them in. We serve about 90 million meals a year to children, and tens of thousands of children 3 meals a day. Sometimes people question us why we do that. I would argue that if we don't feed our children, it's hard for them to think about algebra and chemistry in college and going to the next level. We started a pilot program at 20 schools where we're actually sending food home with children on Fridays for the weekend so that they will have a chance to eat and not spend that weekend hungry. So there are tremendous challenges that we face. Performance, for all the progress we've made, the fact that 8th graders are beating national norms, the fact that we're cutting half the number of students in the bottom quartile, we know we have a heck of a long way to go before we can truly become the best. If you look at the big picture, about half the students in Chicago graduate from high school. About half those that graduate go on to college. Of those that go to college, too few of them are prepared to really be successful. Too many take remedial classes. Too few students enter the college really prepared to learn and able to graduate. Too few students enter the world of work prepared coming out of Chicago public schools. So there's been tremendous progress, and it's very important to celebrate that. But at the same time, you have to recognize how far we still have to go to truly become the best. Despite those challenges, I wake up every single day extraordinarily hopeful and extraordinarily confident about where we can go and how we can get there. And there are 3 major reasons why. I think working here in Chicago, starting right with the mayor, there's a spirit and there's a camaraderie and there's a group of people committed to doing something that simply doesn't exist anywhere else. With the mayor, you have someone who's put his entire reputation on the line, all of his resources, has moved the entire city behind this, and had the courage to step up and take over a system that was educationally, financially, and morally bankrupt. Because of that leadership, because of that act of courage, he's now become a national hero in this movement, and you see New York following his footsteps, you see LA following his footsteps. But to be the first to step out there and assume this responsibility is just extraordinary. We have an unbelievable team working in Chicago Public Schools. We have a number of our board members here tonight. We have a management team that goes way beyond the call of duty every single day. One of the things I'm most proud of is I honestly can say we have the best management team today that public schools have ever seen. We have great teachers, we have great principals, we have great support staff. And if I could, I'd like all the employees of Chicago Public Schools, management team, the board who actually volunteers, the teachers, the principals, the engineers here, please stand up and please give them a round of applause. These guys are the real heroes. These guys are the ones making a difference in our students' lives every single day, and I really accept this award on behalf of all of their hard work. And then there's all of you. Police Superintendent Klein, who I spoke with today and yesterday, and has been an unbelievable support. The business community and the philanthropic community who has poured tens of millions of dollars into this. To the aldermen who have stayed the course with us year by year and supported us. To the religious leaders, to the business community, to the social service agencies. The effort to make the Chicago Public Schools the best in the country, I guarantee you, if it was the Chicago Public Schools effort alone, we would fail. Collectively, we've rallied the entire city behind this effort, and I thank all of you for your extraordinary commitment. Secondly, I'm so optimistic because I'm convinced we have the right strategies to make a difference in our students' lives. We haven't tried to be all things to all people. We tried to focus in a couple core areas. Under Barbara Easton-Watkins' extraordinary leadership, we've had a laser-like focus on literacy, trying to teach all of our children to read and to love to read in an early age. The fact that 8th graders are now beating national norms is an unbelievable accomplishment. The fact that we now have 500 reading specialists in schools across the district gives me great, great hope about where we're going and really driving that culture of literacy at the local school level. Secondly, we have a human capital initiative. We're in the people business. You have to recruit the best and brightest to work with our students. We've seen a doubling of the number of teachers coming to want to teach in Chicago Public Schools. 9,000 teachers applied a couple years ago. This year we had 17,000 teachers apply for 1,700 spots, 10 applicants for every position. 42% of those who applied have master's degrees. It's an extraordinary pool of talent, and it's our job to support them, to help them continue to grow, to make sure they stay with us for the long haul, and we have a chance to transform the workforce here in Chicago over the next couple of years. Third, we're focused on trying to create more learning opportunities. Saying a normal school day, 9 to 2:30, 5 days a week, 9 months out of the year just simply isn't good enough. Our schools have to be open longer hours. We have to do more for children. We've done much more at the early childhood level, going from 22,000 slots to 32,000 slots, trying to dramatically increase the number of students we get before they hit us at kindergarten. We had a goal of making 100 of our schools community centers before 2007. We've hit that goal 2 years early, and we have schools now open 12, 13, 14 hours a day, serving not just our children, but the entire community. Finally, we've taken a very controversial step, and I'd say one of the most important steps, of closing schools that have historically failed and opening great new schools in underserved communities. We opened 22 new schools this year, 10 high schools. And to see waiting lists, to see attendance going from 75% to 95, 96, 97%, we have a great, great sense of where this can go and what our students can accomplish. We're absolutely convinced that over the next 4 or 5 years, we can create 100 great schools that can serve neighborhoods that have seen decades of neglect and absolutely reverse those academic trends. 2 schools we closed 4 years ago that we now have test data on. Those students who came back to those schools, same socioeconomic challenges, same neighborhood, same building, those students are performing 2 to 3 times better, not 2 or 3%. So don't tell me what poor students can accomplish, where there are high expectations, where there's a commitment to excellence, and a real sense of students' tremendous potential. And then finally, and most importantly, it's the people, it's the strategies, but it's really the tremendous belief in what our students can accomplish. And I've been so fortunate to have a lifetime growing up as a part of my mother's after-school program, literally from the time we were children, watching young people from the corner of 46th and Greenwood, who all happen to be poor, who all happen to have many challenges, go on to do extraordinary things. Why? Because there are people in their lives that believed in them. One, Carrie Holly, who was my teacher growing up as part of that program, is now an executive, senior executive with IBM. Another, Michael Clark Duncan, is a Hollywood movie star. Another, Corky Lyons, is literally a brain surgeon. Another one, Ron Ragland, went on to be an award-winning educator in California, who's come back to be part of our management team. For a lifetime, I've seen young people overcome extraordinary challenges where there was support and where there was opportunity. Running the Ariel Foundation with my sister and working for John Rogers, we saw a class of students who we took in 6th grade graduate 6 years later from high school. 87% of those students graduated and went on to college or went on to work. The comparison class 1 year ahead of ours from Shakespeare School, 33% of those students graduated, 67% dropped out. Same neighborhood, same challenges, same school. They just happened to be 1 year older and lacked those supports and lacked those opportunities. And then finally, I started the school year this year with our 1,200 administrators and brought on stage with us a young man who was a senior at one of our high schools now, Fenger High School, named Ontario Jackson. And let me tell you a little bit about Ontario. 4 years ago, when he was an 8th grader, he woke up one morning and his parents were gone. And Ontario said, "I woke up one day and they were gone. I thought they would be back in a day or so, but here it's been 5 years and I still haven't seen them." Ontario ate our breakfasts, ate our lunches, raised himself for a couple of months without heat, without electricity. Eventually, not a relative, but a friend's grandmother took him in. Eventually, a coach took him under his wing. He had adults who supported him. And now this summer, Ontario's going to graduate with over 3.0 GPA and a full football scholarship to the University of Illinois. When you hear those stories and really understand the full potential of our students, I think you can't be anything but helpful and inspired. Before I close tonight, I just want to take a minute and thank my family. I've just been so fortunate to grow up in a family whose whole life is centered around education. My mother's run an after-school program for the past 46 years and still is working too many days a week. My father, who's here tonight, has been a professor at the University of Chicago and has done an extraordinary job being a mentor and a role model to me. My sister, who's here, has worked with me at the Ariel Foundation, is helping to train social workers. My brother's involved now with my mother's program. My wife has done just an unbelievable job supporting me and being my partner as a lifelong teacher and educator. My sister's husband's a teacher. It's just basically something that's ingrained in us. I want to thank them for the example they've set for me throughout my life and hopefully give you a little bit of a sense of the magnitude of this opportunity and what it means not just to me, but to our entire family. Thank you. And at a moment like this, it gives you a chance to reflect and to think back, and not just over the past couple of years, we're out to Chicago Public Schools, but through an entire lifetime being a part of the community.